At 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, a 46,000-ton ship broke into two pieces above open water, and both halves went under within minutes of each other. Of the 2,224 people on board, 1,517 never made it home. That's more people than die in some countries from war in an entire year, lost in 2 hours and 40 minutes in water that was 28 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to kill a healthy adult in 15 minutes flat. But here's what most people don't know. This ship had enough lifeboats to legally pass inspection, and still not enough seats for half the people on board. It had a fire burning inside it before it even left port. And the ship closest enough to save hundreds of lives watched the distress flares and did nothing. Stick with me for the next 10 minutes because every number I give you in this video is documented, pulled directly from the 1912 British and American inquiries. This is how the unsinkable ship actually died, hour by hour. Construction began in Belfast in March 1909 at the Harland and Wolff shipyard. It took over 2 years and roughly 15,000 workers to build her. 8 men died during construction, a cost the ship paid before she ever touched salt water. When she launched on May 31st, 1911, Titanic was 882 feet long, nearly 3 football fields, and weighed 46,328 tons. The final construction cost was approximately $7.5 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's well over $400 million today. She had 16 watertight compartments, engineered so the ship could stay afloat even with any 4 of them completely flooded. That single design detail is where the word unsinkable came from. Not an official White Star Line claim, but a magazine writer who misread the specifications and a myth the public simply refused to let go of. Here's a detail that rarely makes it into documentaries. Titanic had 4 funnels. Only 3 of them were functional. The 4th was decorative, bolted on purely to make the ship look more powerful and symmetrical. Even her most photographed feature was, in part, theatre. And before she ever left Southampton, a coal fire was burning in one of her bunkers, bunker number 6. Engineers worked to control it throughout the voyage. Several firemen later testified about it at the inquiries. Some investigators believe the sustained heat may have weakened the steel plating near the exact point where the iceberg would later strike. On April 14, 1912, Titanic's wireless operators received at least 6 separate ice warnings from other ships throughout the day: the Coronia, the Baltic, the America, the Californian, and others. Some of these warnings never reached the bridge. One was reportedly left on a table, unread, by Captain Edward Smith himself. Titanic was traveling at approximately 22.5 knots that night, close to her top speed, through a known ice field at night with no moon. The sea was unusually calm, no wind, no waves. That calm should have felt like luck. Instead, it worked against the crew. Without waves breaking white against it, the iceberg was nearly invisible in the dark. At 11:40 p.m., lookout Frederick Fleet spotted it dead ahead and rang the warning bell 3 times, shouting down the phone, "Iceberg, right ahead!" The ship turned, but at that speed, with that size, there wasn't enough time or distance to avoid it. This is the part Hollywood gets wrong. The iceberg did not punch a hole through Titanic's hull. It scraped along the starboard side for roughly 10 seconds, buckling steel plates and popping rivets, opening narrow gaps across 6 separate compartments. Remember, Titanic was built to survive 4 flooded compartments. 6 had just been breached. From that exact moment, at 11:40 p.m., the ship's fate was mathematically sealed. Thomas Andrews, the ship's own chief designer, was on board for the maiden voyage. Within an hour of the impact, he calculated it himself and told Captain Smith the ship had, at most, 2 hours left. He was almost exactly right. Titanic sank 2 hours and 40 minutes later. Just 10 to 20 miles away, another ship, the SS Californian, sat still in the ice field. Its wireless operator had switched off the radio and gone to bed at 11:30 p.m., 10 minutes before the collision. Crew members on deck later testified they saw white rockets fired into the sky from a ship in the distance and assumed they were nothing more than company signals or celebration fireworks. Titanic fired 8 distress rockets that night. California never responded. Titanic carried 20 lifeboats, 14 standard wooden boats, 2 emergency cutters and 4 collapsible boats. Combined capacity, 1,178 people. Total number of people on board that night, 2,224. This was not illegal. British Board of Trade regulations calculated lifeboat requirements by a ship's tonnage, not by the number of people on board, rules written decades earlier for far smaller vessels. Titanic actually exceeded the legal minimum, and she still didn't have room for 1,046 of the people standing on her decks. A lifeboat drill had been scheduled for that very morning, April 14th. Captain Smith cancelled it. No surviving record explains exactly why. When the sinking began, that missing drill showed immediately. Crew members weren't certain how much weight each boat could hold while being lowered, so many launched partially empty out of caution. Lifeboat number 1 left with just 12 people in a boat built for 40. Lifeboat 7, the very first one launched, carried only around 28 people in a 65-person boat. Meanwhile, over 700 third-class passengers were housed on the lower decks, separated from the boat deck by long corridors, locked gates required by US immigration law, and, for many, a language barrier. Of 709 third-class passengers, only 174 survived. That's a survival rate of about 25%, compared to roughly 62% in first class. Behind every statistic was a real decision made in real time by a real person. John Jacob Astor IV, one of the richest men alive at the time, helped his pregnant wife into a lifeboat and then stepped back. He told her he'd find another way off. His body was recovered days later. He never made it into a boat at all. Isidor Straus, co-owner of Macy's, was offered a seat because of his age. He refused it, saying he wouldn't go while other men stayed behind. His wife Ida was then offered a seat of her own. She refused it too, choosing to stay by his side. Neither of them survived. Benjamin Guggenheim changed into formal evening wear as the ship sank, reportedly telling a steward, "We are dressed in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." He did. Captain Edward Smith went down with his ship, along with 8 out of 9 senior officers. Of Titanic's roughly 892 crew members, 685 died. A death rate near 77%, higher than any passenger class. The chief engineer and his entire team of 35 engineers stayed below deck to keep the electric lights and wireless radio running until the very final minutes. Every single one of them died. The ship's 8 musicians, led by bandmaster Wallace Hartley, kept playing on deck to calm the passengers as the boats loaded. All 8 died. Survivor accounts still disagree on the very last song they played, and of the 109 children aboard, 53 did not survive, the overwhelming majority of them traveling in third class. This is the part most documentaries skip entirely, and it's the one that explains why so many died so fast. The water that night measured approximately 28 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly -2 degrees Celsius, below the standard freezing point of fresh water, kept liquid only because of ocean salinity. In water that cold, the human body begins losing fine motor control within 1 to 2 minutes. Full unconsciousness can occur in 15 to 30 minutes, followed by death from cardiac arrest or hypothermia shortly after. Survivors already in the lifeboats described hundreds of voices crying out from the water after the ship went under, a sound multiple survivors said stayed with them for the rest of their lives. Within roughly 20 to 30 minutes, that sound faded into near total silence. The ship herself did not go down whole. As the bow filled and dropped, The unsupported stern rose out of the water. Witnesses estimated it lifted to a steep angle before the strain on the midsection exceeded what the hull was engineered to survive. At around 2:18 a.m., Titanic broke apart between the third and fourth funnels. The bow sank first, alone. The stern briefly settled back down, then rose again and slipped under at 2:20 a.m. 2 hours and 40 minutes. That's the entire span from impact to disappearance. The Cunard liner Carpathia, roughly 58 miles away, received Titanic's distress call and turned immediately, pushing through the same ice field at full speed, a decision Captain Arthur Rostron made despite the obvious risk to his own ship. Carpathia arrived at around 4 a.m., nearly 2 hours after Titanic sank, and pulled 706 people out of the lifeboats. One of them died shortly after rescue. Of the 2,224 people who had been aboard Titanic, 1,517 did not survive. It remains one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. The disaster directly rewrote international maritime law. The International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, was drafted in 1914 specifically because of what happened that night. It mandated lifeboat capacity for every person on board, around-the-clock radio watch on passenger ships, at the International Ice Patrol in the North Atlantic, which is still operating right now in the exact waters where Titanic sank.